What is up, everybody? Hello, how's it going? It's your boy, Mr. Chidas, and we're gonna do very quick slides. You don't have to take notes or anything, but this is what I would have been showing you guys if we were in class. So, uh, yeah, that's it. I hope everybody's doing good, low key, high key, and not too pressed or stressed. You know I am, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, so we are talking about food today. So remember, just so we're all on the same page on where we're at, we are currently still in our second lesson, right, which is a cultural identity. Okay, that's on the board if you take a look as well. And we are talking about different types of cultural expressions. So where we've been so far, right, we've talked about surface culture versus deep culture. Then we've gotten into looking at different types of specifically surface culture, right? So we've talked about music so far, and now we're going to go ahead and get into food, which is another expression of surface culture. So you guys already did a reading, which talked a little bit about how food is an important part of culture, right, and cultural identity. So we're going to continue that today, and I have an example, a case study for you guys, okay? So for music, we talked about Duranguense and how important that was to Mexicans, especially Mexicans living in Chicago. Now we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to go to a different Spanish-speaking Latin country, which is Peru, all right? So let's go ahead and take a look, all right? So the food that we're going to be talking about today is called chifa, all right? Chifa. And that is really interesting because it is a Chinese Peruvian fusion food, all right? So it's interesting because it's the national dish. The national dish of Peru is called lomo saltado, which is chifa, which is Chinese Peruvian food. Now you might be wondering, how is Chinese food happening in Peru? So much so to the point that it's the national dish of Peru. Think so for national dishes, right? Think of like for the US, hamburgers, hot dogs, barbecue. Those are like our national dishes, if you will, right? Or like our national dishes, I guess, for Chicago, right? Like deep dish pizza or Chicago hot dog or my personal favorite, an Italian beef, right? How can these Chinese dishes become so popular that they are the national dish of chief of Peru? Well, let's take a look at some of the history of it, okay? So we got to understand the history of immigration to Peru a little bit, okay? So back in the mid to late 1800s, all right, slavery was being outlawed in most parts of the world, all right? One part of the world where it was outlawed was in the New World, okay? So places in the Americas, North and South America, were outlawing slavery. So the Spanish had outlawed slavery, right? And the countries that succeeded it, like Peru, right, also outlawed slavery, right? So now, okay, that there are no slaves in the country, in Peru, okay, business owners are like, no slavery, huh? Well, we're gonna need to figure something else out because we need to do work and we don't want to pay people. So their solution was to hire what we call coolies, all right? A coolie is a person who works next to nothing, all right, under very dangerous conditions, long hours, little benefits, okay, no real like power as an employee, okay? So they're basically slaves, all right? They're basically slaves. They're usually from different countries, and they move to different countries with the promise of like a job and benefits, right? So they usually don't speak the language of the country that they go to. They don't know anybody, right? So they're kind of forced to do whatever their bosses say, and usually they're not paid a lot. So we start getting these coolies, right, coming to different parts of the New World. The majority of them come from India and China. Specifically in Peru, a lot of them came from China. So we how it would work, right, is that European contractors would go to China or they would go to India, right? And they would go to the poor areas where people are looking for work, and they would promise them, they'd be like, hey, come to this country and we're going to get you a job and you're going to make money and you can come back and you can help your family and you'll be good, right? So they made them all these promises, right, that a lot of the times were not real, all right? So specifically in China, they came hundreds, thousands of them, right? Mostly men, mostly Chinese men, came to work in Peru, all right? A lot of them worked in the guano field. Guano is bird poop. That's what it is. But over the time, it collects and it can be used as fuel. So they mine it. And they also came to build railroads, all right? So we have thousands of Chinese people moving to Peru, among other places, different places. A lot of them came to the U.S. in the same way, all right, on the West Coast. But a lot of them are coming to Peru, specifically in places like Lima, right, around there. That's the capital of Peru, okay? So what happened was, once contracts were completed, right, so they would sign a contract where they would have to work for a certain amount of time, maybe like 7 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, depending, right? They were free, okay? They were free from their contract, free from their job, right? Which again was under horrible conditions, okay? But once they were done, they integrated into Peruvian society. A lot of the times, they married local Peruvian women, right? And they had mixed families, right? So Chinese immigrants continued to come to Peru, and there they were known as the Tusan, okay? So we know from, again and again, right, I'm going to say this like 1,000 times, but we keep seeing this over and over again in Latin American culture, that the majority of it is a fusion. It's a mixture of different cultures coming together and creating something brand new. And that's exactly what happens here, okay? So Chinese immigrants come to Peru, right? And they have all of their traditional Chinese recipes. However, they don't have a lot of the ingredients that are found only in China, so they switch them out for Peruvian ingredients. And once that happens, chifa, the cuisine, is born, okay? Now we have Chinese Peruvian fusion cooking, all right? So in the 1920s, the first chifa opens up, okay? So a chifa is the name of the cuisine, but it's also the name of a Chinese Peruvian restaurant. It's also the name of Chinese Peruvian fried rice, okay? So the first chifas open up in Chinatown in Lima, all right? And to this day, chifa is becoming increasingly popular as a unique fusion cuisine, right? There's some chifa spots, I believe, in the U.S. as well too, right? But it has since become so famous in Peru that it's like very high culture, and also it became, like I mentioned in the beginning, the Peruvian national dish is a chifa recipe, all right? So let me show it to you. This is what it looks like. This is an lomo saltado. Okay, so you can see it's a stir fry with soy sauce served with rice, right? But it also has potatoes, which are from Peru, and tomatoes, which are from the New World. Those are native to Mexico, but they also spread to Peru, right? So this is a perfect example. This is the national dish, by the way. It looks pretty fuego also, except I don't like tomatoes. Like, these tomatoes are massive, but whatever. So this is a good example, right? So this is a Chinese dish, stir fry, right? But using these very Peruvian ingredients, okay? Here's an example of chifa or chaufa also, which is Peruvian, Chinese Peruvian fried rice, right? A lot of times it's served with corn, which we know comes from Mexico. Sometimes it has gui, which is guinea pigs. Yes, they eat those. Okay, so those are used. All right. So this is our case study. This is our example of what is this fusion food, and a really important part of cultural identity for Peruvians. Okay, so the point that we're trying to get across is that food is such an integral part of culture. When people think of culture, right, one of the first things they think of is food. Okay, it brings people together. It brings all different kinds of people together when you know that a specific food, right, represents you and your people and your culture, right? It's something that you can come together with, right? It's something that if you can go anywhere, right? For example, right, you can go anywhere in the world, and if they sell a taco, even if it's not the greatest taco, right, that automatically connects you to your culture. Okay, so this is why it's important for us to know about this, because it is one of the major expressions of cultural identity. Okay, that's all I got. So now what I'd like you guys to do is watch the video. It is the next step in the list. Okay, and that one is going to explain more about Chifa. It's really interesting, and the little old dude in the video is super cool. Okay, so once you're done with that, then there's a small assignment and then a reflection, and then you guys are done. All right, hope you guys are doing good. I will talk to you soon. Deuces.